Hey, what's going on, crew? Welcome to another edition of the Clinic Growth Secret Show. This is your host, Jeff EK. We're going to do another guest episode. This gentleman here today is going to be sharing with you a lot of ideas surrounding tracking better metrics in your practice, all the way from statistics to patient metrics, volume metrics, revenue metrics, even employee metrics. This guy has it all. He's actually a good friend of mine, met at a different event out in Las Vegas originally for the Ultimate Achievers Club. And I figured he'd be a great guest on the show as we go into the new year and you start planning for your business ventures. If you guys get value from today's episode, make sure you share the show. We do grow organically by word of mouth around here, which means that we don't fill your ears full of ads and a bunch of stuff that we don't use just to make money on the show. So the only way we grow is through word of mouth. So if you get value, make sure you share the show. If we don't give you value, then don't share the show. It works on value exchange. Okay. So my guest today, Dr. Naota Hashimoto. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to have you, man. You've really you've got something going on in your business right now, and this newer venture. We were talking before the show. You've had quite the journey to take this new business, which we're going to talk about, off the ground. And really your name has been really popping, kind of in the industry. To be honest with you, man, like I get on a lot of sales calls, our team, my team, and I hear your business a lot, and so I'm excited to have you on the show. You've got TrackStat. That's kind of the big venture you're on right now. Before the show, you were talking about this long personal journey to get to TrackStat, and I think we want to at least add that context to begin. So, how did this journey begin for you, not only as a patient, but then becoming a chiropractor to eventually starting TrackStat?
Well, started out actually going into dental school, got in a car accident, did the normal thing, did physical therapy, did medications because we're very allopathic. And then it wasn't until my doctor said you need to see an orthopedic surgeon is when I panicked and I said, I need to go do something. Knowing what I know now, I know that nothing was going to happen. But like, if you're a lay person and you hear orthopedic surgeon, you start to like panic. And then my mom called a family friend, called, and this guy Tony said, "Hey, it's like you got to see a chiropractor." That's when I went, and within 3 visits, I was 50% better. Within 2 months, I was doing immensely better. Acne cleared up. He convinced me to change my diet. Apparently, like Doritos and Coca-Cola and Wendy's Junior Bacon Cheeseburgers weren't really good for me. And so it's like that happened, did chiropractic school, actually met my wife and, started a practice, went to Seattle, came back down. We were banging. Like we had, when it was just me, her, and like two staff, we hit 1.8. This is before kids, and we were killing it. And then I decided that we're going to add in medical, which our revenue went up, but our profitability went way down. And then
Mm,
we started doing it our way. And one of the ways that we grew our practice was we did these educational seminars, which is what I was talking about. And we were doing a ton of these seminars for our practice. At that point, when we started doing it our way and not the consultant, what they told us to do, and literally doing the exact opposite of what they told us to do. Like they wanted us medical 5 days a week. We did medical like 1 day a week to maximum 2 days a week. And we just focused on stem cells. And then we did like knee braces, back braces. And then we're hitting 3.5 per year. Top year we hit 4, but like 3.3, 3.4, 3.6 was pretty typical. And I had, going to masterminds, talking to people like you, and people said, "Hey, you got to do this for me. You got to do this for me." And we got in pretty early on it. So we're doing these educational seminars, and we got it to a point where we're doing 200 of them a month. And this is before high level was really a thing. So
mm,
we were hacking Infusionsoft. So like you'd submit your seminar on like a type form. It would create a custom made funnel. It'd make a serverless landing page that would load in 1 second on a mobile phone back in 2017, which is freaking impressive,
dude, for sure.
right?
Yeah,
That
no,
is
no
very
doubt.
impressive because like ClickFunnels at the time was doing it in 3.5, 4 seconds for first render. And we were able to push out a seminar within 4 hours without a ton of labor. And so we were very profitable with this, and we automated a ton of stuff. And then we're using Zapier at the time.
Yep.
And it was like breaking. And like one of my best friends, he's, I'd say, a top 1%er at automation, but he just said, like, we need to hire a developer. We ended up hiring a developer. And like I tried hiring developers before. The problem is like I tried to hire them as a project, and I thought that you could hire someone, they could code something and it's fixed forever. And I was pretty naive because like Google doesn't update, Microsoft doesn't update, the software doesn't update, something is going to break and then you
Right.
can't get a hold of them again. So we ended up, it's our CTO now, but like he was on salary. So we built out this Zapier automation and we did the serverless landing page and we just started doing a bunch of stuff. And then, I just said to my partners, is like, because like David was like sitting around, I was like, well, if he's getting paid salary, do you guys care if I give him some little side work? Because we had Touch in our practice. And like one of the things that we did that helped our practice a lot that was super simple is when you started a treatment plan, we had a tracking sheet. And everyone that started a plan finished the plan. And if they didn't finish the plan, we wrote down why. It was kind of like a patient auditing system, super simple. And then we had everyone that came in as a new patient, we tracked them and made sure, did they start? Did they not? And if they didn't move forward, why did that happen? So we could audit that and, change our marketing ways. And then we started adding in a couple of stats that were a pain in the ass and Touch at the time. And then, I'd go to masterminds and then I'd have friends say, it's like, oh man, you got to check out Hash's thing. It's awesome. And we didn't even have a name for it. We called it the tracker thingy. So it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
so we called it the tracker thingy because that's what it was doing. And yeah, like I had this seminar business that was like blowing up. That was turning into a couple mil a year. And then we had like multi-million-dollar practice. And then we had this like tracker thingy that I wanted to turn into a business. I just didn't have the time to do it.
Yeah.
And like COVID eventually happened, which kind of forced the decision. But I'd say in 2019 is kind of like when I really started thinking about it. Um, so it's like something I didn't tell you is so like my dad ended up getting sick and he ended up passing. And it turns out at the end of everything, you're not wondering about a house you didn't get, a car you didn't get, a watch you didn't buy, or something like that. And it had nothing to do with material possessions. It was about like what was my meaning, what was my purpose, the people he loved, the people that loved him, and that was it. And it made me think, and it was like I remember just telling my wife, and I was like, I just had a lot of stuff going on in my life. And like this was happening, and it just made me just do a double take. And I remember in practice when I collected in our first year, I broke 100K. Like we collected 276 actually. And I remember how freaking pumped I was. And I remember back then I was like, because we grew up like really poor, like not super poor, like say upper lower class, maybe lower middle class, like
Yeah.
poor enough to go to the food bank for the last like 5 to 7 days of the month. So we didn't quite have enough money to make it the whole month. We could make it like 3 weeks. So it's like, and we had stuff, we just didn't have like the extra stuff. But it just like I remember like I took home 1 million and I thought I was gonna be so happy if I hit that number. And I just felt happy, but like kind of empty at the same time. And I remember when my dad was going through this thing, I was just thinking and talking about it a lot with my wife. And it's just this thing that this tracker thing, I was like, this is my thing. This is what I want to do. But we didn't know how we could make that a reality because we had two businesses that were doing well, and I didn't want to let go of any of them. And like when COVID happened, we were talking about this for like almost not quite a year. Like September 2019 is like when I had like a serious discussion. Like I got off the phone with my dad and I was very distraught. And I just told her, I don't want to wait till I'm 76 and dying of cancer to figure out what I want to do. This thing that some of my friends told me I need to do, this is what I've been put on this planet to do. And I want to run with it because I think chiropractic is one of the purest, best professions out there. And I have no idea. I have an idea, but like I don't understand why there's like 65 to 70,000 of us. Some people will say like maybe 80,000, depending on like what you look at. And physical therapists, there's like 250,000 of them, right? It's just we don't have enough people going to chiropractic school, which is driving up the cost of chiropractic school. And then people are graduating with more debt than ever. And then reimbursements are going down. And I don't think anything's going to change unless like there's some big change. And I fundamentally believe that if we get more chiropractors that are more successful, just like some of the people that you help on your call, is like that's going to drive the profession forward. And I said, I can't fix everything, but this is something that I'm very good at. I've always been very good at process, and some people think I'm great at process. I'm very good at creating the idea and getting the initial process. And my wife is actually my equal counterpart, the introvert that was like the finance major that was also a chiropractor and acupuncturist and summa cum laude and everything. So she's very good at poking a ton of holes in my ideas. And then we
Mm,
just work back and forth like that. And eventually we get this thing massaged into something really, really good. And I'd say between the two of us, like we're very good at creating process and simplifying things for practices. So that's kind of like how TrackStat was born. And then when COVID happened, I will fully admit that I freaked the fuck out for the first 48 hours.
for
Right?
sure.
Because like I just saw that business that was doing over 2 million in the seminar thing just like tank. And I said we could pivot into webinars, we could pivot into something, and everyone was saying pivot. It got to a point where I was sick and tired of hearing the word pivot, but I was like, you know what, this is my opportunity. And it's like it took a lot of cojones, but we just did it because like I don't know if you've ever really developed SaaS, but it is expensive.
It's a
So, but
project.
fortunately, yeah, my wife and I have always been very good stewards of our money and always lived way below our means. So, like, we had a pretty large nest egg saved up from like the years of running the practice like that. And we just said, fuck it, we're gonna go for it. And we just started. I told her, David is like, hey, we're not laying you off, we're keeping you on full time, and I want you to reach out to your network, and we need to find another David. And we found another David in August. And when we found that person, we started looking for the third person. So like
That's
even though we were losing a ton of money developing the software. We just went all in and then just kept cranking. Like now we're hiring our 14th engineer, interviewing. I think we got the guy found, and then adding a couple more people to our support team. But yeah, it's been a wild ride to get here. And I know we got on here to talk about stats, but that's kind of like the journey to here. And, you know, I still have a vision of what I would like to do for the profession, but, you know, getting 10,000 chiropractors an extra 30K in their bank account at the end of the year is part of that. And then now, as we've been going along, we've been fortunate to have some good introductions with CEO of ChiroTouch and founder of Jane and some other like big EHRs that have a lot more capital and a lot more influence and, just collaborating on what we actually could do for the profession. So,
I
yeah.
think that I think it's really cool that like a big part of like the epiphany for you and your journey was like I can have a bigger impact on the profession if I help these people be more successful with my SaaS program, right? My software. Because it's like at the end of the day, like why do a lot of chiropractors like struggle? And I think like the brutal fact of it all is like a lot of people don't want to look at the stats. They ignore the stats. They don't peek at them. They don't look under the hood. Sometimes they're, motivatedly ignorant, as I like to say, like they literally don't want to know. And other times it's just like maybe out of their comfort zone or out of their interest, right? But at the end of the day, the business will only be as good as the things that we can track. So I think that's really elegant of you, just putting all of your eggs in that basket to help fill a notable gap in the profession. So you've got TrackStat, and you've been pushing on it. And actually it's really cool because you and I met 2023 in September, and then we've seen each other a handful of times at different events. And even over the last like 18 months, dude, like you've really like helped really taken the business to the next level. I guess like right now, like what would you say is maybe the biggest opportunity? So like doctors who are listening, they're like, hey man, I don't really know my stats that well. Maybe I have a rough gauge. Like what is a good place to start? And how can TrackStat really help like fill those gaps in terms of the visibility of the data?
Well, they could go to trackstat.org, trackstat.org. You can watch a demo. We do a free trial. I also have a thing where they could get like reactivation scripts. And then with ours, it's just really about tracking patients, tracking employees, tracking stats, and automating everything else. So, like good A players, if you make things easier for them to find and make it easier for a front desk to be profitable on a busy patient day, because most of the time, if they're going to do something like a patient recall, they have to wait for air quotes downtime, which is hard to find. But on a busy patient day, they'll have all these like micro breaks of 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, and they don't have enough time to figure out what to do. So what we do is we provide the magnifying glass and we like our recalls, for example. So our recall list, we will take a look at all the data and we know how often they schedule, how valuable they are to the practice, what is the likelihood of them scheduling, and we score the patients and we put your best ones at the top and worst ones at the bottom. Because if you have a list of 300 people to follow up with, they don't have time to follow up with them. And then you could text, email, schedule all from there without leaving that tab. So we're just minimizing clicks and making it much faster to do. And then obviously you're automating reach out. Same thing, like you take someone that no-shows for an appointment. You can no-show for an appointment. There's systems out there that will do an auto text, just like we do an auto text, say 15 minutes after their appointment. You'll call them, and then if they answer, you could schedule them without going back into your EHR. You have the name pre-selected, so it's just saving you some time. Then if they don't schedule the next day, I'll actually set it up where I'll do an auto text the next morning if they haven't scheduled yet. And if they don't schedule, most offices will just throw them into the abyss. But like we'll give a list, and then the tracking of that would be the rescheduling rate of canceled and missed appointments. So a player likes being tracked because they're an A player, and we're making it easier for them to find them. But like the owner, the manager could see, are they rescheduling these people that have canceled or missed? Right?
Super interesting. I actually
Yeah.
the high value patient part is really really like powerful, I think, because at the end of
Yeah.
the day, not all patients are equal to the practice, right?
100%.
And so like
So,
it's a way, it's a method of prioritization on who really to keep in tabs with. Like, hey, if Jill missed an appointment and Jill's been a patient for 10 years and she's only missed one appointment in 10 years, that's an extremely high value patient. That should be massively top of mind compared to somebody who came in 5 times and then it has been ghosting.
yep. And then like with retention, right? So it's like a lot of people, I think they just try to, I see two ends of the spectrum. I see people that track too many things, and I see people that track nothing. And both of them I think are equally as bad. Like I'll have clients, they want to track a bunch of KPIs because they read it in a book or heard it from a consultant. And I just say, it's like, well, if this number trends up, trends down, or flatlines, are you going to change behavior? And if they're not going to change their behavior, if they're not going to bonus, reprimand someone based on this, then don't track it. So, like getting one, two, or three stats to drive behavior. So, if I was trying to drive patient retention for a front desk, I might track a future scheduling rate. What are the percentage of people that came in today that left with a future appointment? And maybe how many visits? They have control over that. With a provider, I might say, I want to track how many visits they have scheduled out over the next 30 days. You could get into like patient drop-off analysis. You could get into PVA. You could get into a lot of things. You could figure out how many people made it to the first re-exam, the second re-exam, and what are the percentage that moved on beyond that. But like if you just say, I want to see how many visits they have over the next 30 days, that one metric is going to drive a lot of retention. Because now the doctor is going to say, what do I have to do? I got to do better retention. I got to do better table talks. I gotta start mapping out my plans, getting people to schedule out for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And that is going to change the behavior. So that's kind of like how I like to do it. But yeah, like typical things that people want to track is how many new ones, how many showed, how many started, maybe where did they come from, how much did I collect from each of those referral sources, how many visits of decompression, laser, or like a certain kind of service. What am I collecting per visit? What did I collect? What did I bill? What am I charging? How many codes per visit? Like you could track all kinds of things. Like Like I have one of my clients, like with declining insurance reimbursements, he's trying to get his doctors to do more cash services. So they had like four providers, and three of the providers are averaging 20 to 30% of their office visits with insurance patients are getting offered a cash service. And there's one provider that's like hovering between 0 and like 3%. They're
Mm.
all seeing the same patient base. And the other guy's like, well, they're not a candidate. They're not a candidate. So it's like, well, why are these other three providers finding that 20 to 30% of their patients are a candidate for decompression or laser or shockwave, and you're at like 0 to 1%, right? So it's a tool to drive behavior. I've had like another client, they wanted to drive their providers to do more extremity adjustments on insurance patients. So they started tracking like what are the percentage of Blue Cross patients that got an extremity code. Now it's never going to be 100%, but now you start seeing a norm, right? You see like two or three providers that are finding them on like 1 out of 5 patients, and this other guy's finding them on 0 patients.
Yeah,
And
it's a way to
so,
cross compare like internal team, like
yeah,
different people in the same role.
yeah, so it's just like I like stats for like driving behavior, but like with TrackStat, like yeah, like we're tracking employees, pre-day prep, connecting to like high level, automating that process. So like we're also trying to solve a problem for the agency because like you guys are following up with leads, right? And then because you guys follow up with leads for your clients, right?
We do like automated follow-ups, but we don't do like personal like calls, text, emails. We
Got
train
it.
them how to do that in house.
Yeah, and then so your top clients are your top clients because they just do the top things. And then the other people sometimes they're have a front desk that's too busy wearing too many hats and they don't have enough time to do the follow-up. They don't have enough time to log into another software. And you have all these automated drips, and the automated drips in high level are only good if that contact is updated. So with TrackStat, we'll say if someone schedules an appointment, we'll update that to a different opportunity, which you could trigger automated text. If they no show, we'll update that. If they show up, we'll update that. If they start care, they update that. And then we'll update the referral links, not the referral links, I mean the referral sources.
Yep.
So you could get better like metrics, or if you're doing your source tracking through tags in high level, you could do a report like that. And then we'll actually create a custom scheduling link in there. So in the opportunities field of high level, they could click that and it's going to pre-fill it with first name, last name, email, phone number if you have that in high level. So now all they have to do is pick a time and that's going to go right in there. And then we're adding in some other things, integrations, because like people just want it working better and they don't want to have to do double data entry, right? So the goal would be is lead comes into high level, the office or whoever's following up the leads is just going to work them until they become a patient. And from there, they don't have to do anything because it's all getting triggered from what's happening in the EHR already.
Mm. Makes sense. So streamlined.
Yeah. And then for agencies, right, you'd be able to see how many leads, where did they come from, how much did I collect? And if you really wanted to break it down to, you could break it down to an actual click ID. And then you could feed that back into Facebook or wherever. And now you're going to get first party data, which I don't know, like some of your users have already figured out that Apple's made your life as an advertiser probably a little bit more fun. And you have all these people like Google says, we're not going to share data with you, but we want all the data. Apple says, we're not going to share data with you, but we want all the data. Facebook says, we're not going to share data with you, but we want all the data. Because back in the day when we were running seminars, like all those attributes and likes, they were awesome. And you were getting like your cost per lead was awesome. But like I know you guys, like I was talking to Nick, and you guys are doing some pretty savvy things. And you guys are essentially creating what Facebook used to have back in the day, and you're creating your own audience. And that is, Nick was telling me all the stuff he's doing, and it's a huge pain in the ass, but totally worth it for you guys.
It's massive. Yeah. I mean, I think like your ability, like you said earlier, the ability to have like first party data that you can actually rely on is so pivotal nowadays because, Facebook attribution is just absolute dog shit. It'd be like one campaign will say you have 10 leads, you have zero. Another one that says you have zero and you have over 20. So then you're making just bad decisions. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's like the biggest thing of like statistics too is like, you can manipulate the numbers all you want, but if you have the wrong data to start with, you're pretty much effed. And that's, I think, where you guys come in and like really help people is that like, yo, dude, like if we can just get you looking at easy to understand live dashboards, undoubtedly you're going to make better decisions on where to go next in your business, you know?
Yeah, and it's just like one thing doesn't do everything, right? It's a dashboard, right? You need marketing, you need sales, you need follow-up, you need clinical care, you need to do reviews, you have to have your equipment, you have to have tech, and running a business is hard, which is why a lot of clinicians fail at it because like they learn how to be a good clinician. Because when I got out of school, I thought that if I became the best doctor, I was going to succeed. And then I quickly realized that it was really all about sales and marketing, right?
Yeah.
And it just, yeah, like sales, I would say I hated it when I got out of school. Like I hated sales. I thought that I needed to get snake skin alligator boots and grow
Yeah.
a
Selling
mustache.
snake oil. Yeah.
Yeah, it just like I just felt like that. It just and then my mentor just, he just says like, "Do you think you're good at what you do?" It's like, yeah, it's like, if your mother came in or my mother came in, would you want them treated by you? It's like, absolutely. I was like, you're just, he's just said like selling is something what you do for someone, not what you do to someone. And once I flipped that and I just realized not really selling them, I'm just trying to
No.
solve a problem. And then selling the software is it's actually like, it's pretty easy. And once I figured out all I'm trying to do is just help the person, I'm not trying to like, manipulate them. It just selling became really easy. And yes, you learn little tactics and scripts and how you deliver it and stuff like that. And you refine that. But like, I had to get over that hump. And then once I realized that it's just something I do for someone, not to someone, that's kind of like when I decided I need to learn how to sell better.
Yeah. No kidding. Yeah. I think that if you remember the first rule of sales is basically to help the person make the best decision for themselves, you know? As long as you remember that, it's like, hey man, if you're selling to somebody and like deep down that you can't help them, or in chiropractic their case is maybe a little bit too complex, or there's something going on that you need to be looked at and you continue to sell, that's going to give you bad karma. But if you know through exam that you can help, we're basically helping them not make the wrong decision and go down the other wrong path of medicine.
Yeah, no, but like I had to kind of get over that, and then just
Takes
he
time.
just walked me through like, well, okay, well, if they don't get treatment with you, what are they going to do? I was like, well, they've done physical therapy, they're going to do it again. They'll try another epidural, they'll take medications, maybe take opiates, and then eventually it's going to get worse and they have to get surgery. So it's like that conviction of what you do and following through on it is it's a big part. But yeah, like with business, it's like I feel like you have to get your sales, you have to get your marketing, you have to get your
You have all the
operations or
core
your
functions.
delivery of your thing. And then
Yep.
obviously you have to get your financial house in order. And then you have to have your team in order. And it's a lot of shit.
It is. It
And
is.
it's, like I've actually realized that I like it a lot. It's the game of business and it's fun. Like you guys seem like you guys
It
like
is fun.
business.
Yeah, it
And
is fun, dude. It's fun because it's like you get to design it and you get to go. And like when you have a smaller organization, like not like big corporate stuff, like it's great if you have that, but if you have, a private, bigger size companies, like you can still move pretty quick because you don't have all these layers and layers and layers and layers of reporting and like movement and this and that. So you can move pretty quick, which is fun too.
it's fun in a small business. Like like I know some people, some like friends that, like they've sold their business and they joined like a big like PE private equity type group. And
Yep.
it's just like they start to become depressed because it's like death by inaction. It's like talking to one of my friends, like he's used to like, sitting there having like a little podcast, get an idea, jamming out with the team. Okay, we're gonna do it this way. And you can't do that in like big companies with like five, six, 700 people. So it's like you have to have a meeting and another meeting and another meeting. So I think small business is amazing and it's fun. And yes, we get to wear a lot of hats. Like when I was in the other business and we had a lot of other things, I wasn't wearing a lot of hats. And then when I started doing this SaaS, like the software as a service, I was wearing a ton of hats. I'm still wearing a ton of hats. Like we're finally like getting a sales team. Like up until now, I was the sales team. Like we focused on like development, product support first, and then no sales team, and I hired my first salesperson this August. So, and then I sold my
Congrats.
practice in June. So, like, hoping that there's going to be a lot more people that are even using TrackStat like a year from now, because like we've done it all with like just 100% inbound stuff pretty much with very little outbound, and now we're actually starting to do a little bit of outbound. I ran my first Facebook ad like just a couple of months ago. So
Nice.
starting with
Dude,
that.
that's huge,
And
man. Yeah, you're getting in that stage where you're getting the capital to like reinvest in it and like really actually like kind of scale it, you know?
yeah, and like I think I'm still gonna continue doing client calls and doing some sales calls because like a lot of our really good ideas have come from just client calls or people just say, "Oh, I wish it did this," or explain how to do it, and I watch
Yeah.
how they do it and I see how they fumble around. And it's like, okay, we gotta make this easier. So like one of the things that's kind of like gotten us to here is, my wife and I, we just practiced for so many years and kind of have an idea of the workflows. So, but yeah, like watching how different people use the product, like has really helped us. And we just really obsess about that whole user experience.
Client feedback is invaluable, dude. One thing's for sure, if you're in a service business and you provide a product like a SaaS, like or like a general product, and like someone, the clients are going to poke holes in it, which is great. Like people are going to go through your program, and if you have an online program like we do, and they'll be like, "Hey, like this video's there's an error here." Be like, "Oh shit, got to go back." So like if you have to like, especially in the beginning of a business, you have to beta test it too. Otherwise, you'll put so many eggs in one basket. It's like get it good enough to sell, give it to a bunch of people, and then let them tell you what they want you to fix.
Yep, that's it. Like with software, it's like perfect like that. Most of the things are going to release as a minimal viable product, let them use
Yep.
it. And like we'll have a list of all the different features that we want to add, but based on like how they use it, we'll start shifting things around in priority. Is like, okay, this thing that I didn't think that was important, we're going to move that right up into the top of the queue. And then sometimes I just joke with the devs, like we'll have our meetings and they'll release something to me to like look at it. And I was like, no, 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 you forgot the V in MVP. So they released the minimal product, but not the minimal viable product. It's like
Yeah, right, right, right,
they,
for sure. Yeah, that's like we could release this, but we would take a hit brand wise. We need to make this more viable.
yeah. So it's just like I just a little rib them a little bit. It's like you forgot the V. So it's like they know what I'm talking about. We need to add this, this, and this. Add that. They'll work on that for like a week or two. Get it back. We have another meeting about that one little feature, and it's like, okay, this is good. Let's push it out, and then clients will use it and poke holes in it, and they'll use it in ways that you didn't even think could be used. And it's just like, that's not the way it was intended, but okay, let's make that thing work for you too.
No,
So,
genius, dude. I love all that. I appreciate you being on here, man. Lots of good
yeah,
value. I want
no,
everybody to go
it's,
check out TrackStat too. Like these guys are the real deal. If you're listening to this show, you obviously like stats because that's what I talk a lot about marketing stats and data and sales calls and scripting and that kind of stuff. So you obviously care about growing your practice, and if you feel like you maybe need a little bit more visibility on your day-to-day numbers to help you ultimately make better decisions, TrackStat would be a good place for you to at least take a look at to see if they might be able to help you out. So hey, man, I appreciate it, Dr. Hashimoto, man. Thanks for being here, dude.
thanks for having me.
I appreciate it, man. You guys take care. If you guys got value today, share the show. I'll make sure to have Doc's links below, links to TrackStat. Check them out. You said before we go, you said you offer like free trials and stuff like that. People to
Yep,
give it a shot.
free trial.
30 days, 50
All I
day.
have to do
What's
is, we do 2 weeks.
oh,
If
fair enough.
someone
Yeah,
can't
that's
figure it
cool.
out in 2 weeks and like they're on there and they need some more time, we'll give it more time. But like if I give people a month, most people will procrastinate and wait till like the last like week or two to do that. So, um, 2 week trials usually enough. Realistically, most people within the first 20 minutes of using it, they see the value in it and they realize that they want to move forward with it.
Love it, man. A program is good if they're willing to give you a little bit of free time in it. Well,
Yep.
I appreciate you being here, my friend. Well, guys, we'll make sure to share it. We'll put the links in the show notes. Until the next one. Cheers.
Thank you.